Mrryanmcmahon's The Language Crystal. This is how powerful the word is. And when you listen to this, you're going to have to listen to it twice. It's almost certain. Because the use of language is encoded into our psyche. The use of the symbols and such. So, here we go. If we take spirit, biology, biospirit, and life out of our lexicon, or out of our mind, or out of our approach to thinking, we will most certainly lose sight of reality. And that's encoded in the words that we speak. So I'm reading from Lawrence William Lyons. Think of a host who counted all the people in the room to set a place for each, but then he lacked one setting because he forgot to count himself. Science has been like that host, in its search for a theory of a unified field. We had Einstein's relativity to describe the speed of light among the stars, and we had quantum mechanics to tell of minute subatomic particles absorbing or bouncing off of each other. But we had no workable unified field theory to bring the great and small together, for we had forgotten that the human mind itself is the only real equal sign in our experience. Physicists use equations to describe the universe, the one verse. Still, the force of life was not on the seating list, meaning the host who was making the seating list. Scientists working on the unified field theory had officially narrowed the focus to 4 physical forces, force fields. But every formula to integrate these 4 had failed. The 4 forces studied were the strong force, the weak force, light, and gravity. The quarks and neutrinos of quantum mechanics were held together by the strong force. The weak force allowed for decay of atomic structures, such as in radioactivity. Light and gravity were also counted as forces, but life did not seem to count. Consider that dark is the absence of light and that cold is the absence of heat. We know light and heat to be physical. Dark and cold, however, are properties of the void. They are, in absolute terms, what we imagine nothing to be. Also, what is called the force of gravity is the absence of the force of levity, but physics dealt with gravity as if it were positive. We nullify the law of gravity each time we lift a finger in levity, for life has a power to elect, and so we must affect the outcome of every experiment. For elective life, energy is always present. Photons are as unpredictable as the people who measure them, but the spelling of measure, me-a-sure, me assure, gives us a clue. Your spirit is felt in the universe, the one verse. When you unify El, E-L, the light within, with Ra, the light outside. True science is a struggle with God. Israel, the word in Hebrew, means a struggle with God. So, El, the light within, and Ra, the light outside, are simply subject and object. subjective and objective reality, within and without, our inner world and what appears to us as our outer world. False science ignores the human spirit of cosmic electivity. Though Einstein said that gravity was a result of mass warping space, gravity was also listed as the fourth force, but as an elemental force. So, how can it be a result? When measured mathematically, gravity is a zero energy wave. Gravity is no more of a force than darkness or cold. Each are negatives. They lack energy. Death also appears to be a force to those who think negatively about life. Yet light, heat, and all other forms of positive energy are neither created nor destroyed. They simply move from form to form. And it is with life. Another clue is the Christian Mass, where the Easter Master is called by a spell caster to take the form of bread and wine. Remember that all realms are linked in the ultimate reality. A short-range repelling force was discovered by Daniel R. Long, showing the law of gravity break down at ranges from 1.8 to 12 inches. Of course, the numbers mark the rim of limits mystically, yet the report went on to say that Stanford University was searching for anti-gravity. But we just learned that gravity is not a force. It is a lack of energy. So in reality, anti-gravity is simply levity. The realm of science is now only beginning to understand life's relationship to substance. We each have surges of telepathic and telekinetic powers that urge us, but such experiences cannot be repeated regularly in experiments. Still, this is no reason for science to reject individual knowledge. Biological facts, though always touched by spirit, are nonetheless facts. Animals and plants thrive on telepathic powers, and we who dream of heaven are also animals, but we share the snares of hell. So, with our particular mind set, we can rise above the rest via techno or technical application. But runaway techno thoughts can weaken our beliefs and our sense of community, for only the concept of everlasting life gives full strength to the definition of life. As stated before, life just changes from form to form. It's never ending, as energy is. The force of life observes all other forces, and so the unified field that physicists search for is more than physical. It is centered. The letter C, which means light, entered. So centered is light entered, as in E equals mc squared. The C stands for light, coming from the Latin word for acceleration, cerilitos, in the observing force. And this is why we have not charted a course unto oblivion. Even when life didn't seem to count, when the observer seemed to be served more than observed, the observer there was a plan that linked planets. A planet is only a little plan. Yet, by learning to respect this planet, we can learn to live in the universe, the one song. Now that Phase 3 has begun, by recycling waste and producing less, we are gaining some sense of direction, but we have a problem with our scientific philosophy. And here he means, when he says Phase 3, as I said before, Phase 3 is the phase of post-history, when we become aware of the power of our language and symbols, and we choose to dictate history in a whole different way. We know that 3 times 3 is 9, but no number, when multiplied by itself, yields 3. So the square root of 3 is a surd, S-U-R-D. This formula works under the tree of technology, but the tree of life seems absurd scientifically. For beyond its physical roots are roots no mortal eye can see. And just to segue here, it's important to know what a surd is, because we're talking about words and language. And a surd is a voiceless consonant. For example, the word L-I-G-H-T has a G in the middle, but no one ever hears it. So, light has no G sound in it. So the G is totally silent. That would be called a surd. It's a bit of irrationality in our creative way of creating symbols. In this case, letters. Okay. With integrity, life in its factions, fractions, and instability take on new reality. Make-believe is not a fiction. Thought can bring on real-life friction. Thus, Tibetan Tantric masters can generate tumo heat in their bodies with only make-believe. For life has roots in the spirit that we each can use each day to love each other's absurdity. Picture the universe relative to you. You are at rest, while the rest goes through its motions. You hold fast, all else moves fast around you. You are still, all else is still in motion. Can you see the play on words there? It's actually not a play. It's showing the psychological and emotional components that we have held with our language, depending on how you use it. This is, like he says before, the light without, the raw, and the light within, the L, or the objective and subjective realities of our word symbols. We call our writing materials stationary, since we assume a fixed point from which we write, and a feeling of being stationary makes all else fall within the universal context we create. Life is a waveform of metaphysical into the physical. Being still, holding fast, and remaining at rest are the origins of spirit, which is everywhere at once and not in need of locomotion. So, life is a physical continuum, the mystery that is solved by those who are so individual as to see beyond their own individuality. And the spirit moves us from within, but seems to move among us when we think we are divided. M-OVE, move, is this abstraction, is where a L-OVE, love, meets a love, where moving E, motion, are touching. So warmth, light, and life, the positives, are children of levity, possessed by spirit. And this tells us more about the continuum of life. Seeds may be frozen for ages and then regenerated. A spirit at rest can issue forth and grow within the plant that it inhabits. But on the other hand, heated above 130 degrees Fahrenheit, a seed can no longer engender its kind, for at such heat the spirit leaves, and devil, spelled backwards, is lived. Being still, holding fast, and remaining at rest do not destroy enzymes, but fire kills the physical cell. So, the void is not a threat to living eternity. Control of fire is the key. We lose our tempers from temperature if spirit gets too hot. Ideas get out of shape if we fail to meditate. Be still, D-voted, devoted, for a moment, C-entered, centered. And with a choice, you can see life as the greatest choice of all. So feed your life with life energized by light to kindle the fire of your soul. The shape of the universe is one turn in the word, and its reverse flows forward in time. For verse serves life in a positive sense, or it makes no sense at all. So, I highly recommend listening to this one more time. and really looking at the root words involved in this explanation of the power of words on the human psyche. Please share.
For the sweets back through your teeth, for the games you left one there, for your mom with soap in her hair. Where did you learn to snatch those toys? Where did you learn to make that noise?